Myron J. Clifton, it is an honor to have you back on the platform, brother. My wife, actually, she loves your TikTok. She's always on TikTok. So she follows you on TikTok. She gets all of her news from you. Uh, doing
Tell
your
her thank
family
you.
with the Cardi B concert. She loved
Oh
that.
man.
She loves Cardi B. So when she saw you, she loves you, Myron. So, man, first off, I appreciate you so much. Your platform is beautiful. I love just seeing its growth, people engaging, man. So I salute you, brother, starting off. Thank you,
Thank
man,
you.
for all
Thank
you
you.
do.
I appreciate that. And
Yes, sir.
yeah, yeah, as you know, my wife is a Cardi fan, and
Indeed.
I was doing my best to support her.
I love it. I love it. A girl dad, true and true.
Yes,
Myron, on
sir.
your TikTok, brother, today's conversation is going to be much needed because I think people need an in-depth analysis from Black
Okay.
people here, boots on the ground in America. You had a powerful quote that you had put on your page, and I love this video where you had said, "Give us your vote, but don't give us your voices. Vote for this person,
Mm,
or you'll get this person." Right? We don't have
mm,
this conversation enough sometimes about the Democratic Party itself as well when
mhm,
it comes to treating our people and especially Black women in leadership. Our last conversation, we talked about VP at the time, Kamala
mm.
Harris, but then Jasmine Crockett, seeing her lose in that race in Texas, that's very concerning. Myron, what do you think we need to do? And what is the meaning rather behind those words? Give us your vote, but don't give us your voices.
That's a great prompt, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And let me say and speaking of Texas, Jasmine Crockett was the better candidate.
Hmm.
She has more experience. She has more political experience and life experience than the person that ran against her, James Tallarico. And if you look back to after Kamala lost and when the hearings were going on in Congress, people love Jasmine Crockett. They say she's a
Yep.
fighter, that she
Yep.
is unafraid to take to Donald Trump. She's going at him. And there were people saying if that lady ran for president, they would vote for her right now.
Mm.
And then as soon as she announced she was running for that Senate seat in Texas and she was going up against a very standard white guy with less experience, they all said, no, she's an angry Black woman. Don't vote for her. We need to go to this guy because he can reconcile with MAGA. He can talk
Mm.
to them. He has a Bible. He can talk to them. And at the moment she conceded, his people on the apps and on YouTube and on TikTok were saying to Black people, vote blue no matter who. You need to vote for him. This
Yep.
is who you need to go with. And we don't want to hear anything else. Identity politics can be put aside. Now just go with this guy. And so that led me, I searched around the apps. I was looking for all these responses, some to my videos and some to other people's videos. There were many white Democratic voters, not all white, but many white Democratic voters telling us just vote for this guy.
Yep.
And that made me think, you don't want our voices. You just want to
Mm.
vote. And Republicans don't want us to vote. And too many people in the Democratic Party, not just rank and file members, but leadership and elected officials, they just want us to vote. They don't want to hear from us. They don't want to hear about our struggles. They don't want to hear about matters that are important to us, which are important to everybody. Let's be
True.
honest, because we're not just about crime and justice. We're about buying homes. We're about good schools, clean water, clean air, all this
Yep.
kind other kind of stuff. But they don't want to hear from us. They call it
Mm.
identity politics, and we speak up. And you know what? I got issues with that.
Mm. Come on, Myron. I do too, man. And it's like from seeing all the clips of Christy Nome being questioned by
Ooh,
Jasmine Crockett. Of course, Jasmine Crockett ate her up beautifully. And people, they forget she has a background as an attorney. So she was just lining her
exactly.
up with all the questioning. But I'm like, we're talking about these clips, but we aren't talking about what just happened with her losing. Myron, why do you think that she lost? Because I get so confused sometimes, and you talk about this on your page a lot when people talk about the Black and brown community, right? I hate how sometimes we get jumbled up together because it shows at the voting polls sometimes that they don't necessarily feel the same way as us. Because I
Right.
think, especially with what we saw with Kristi Noem and Homeland Security, what you see with ICE, especially in Texas, then we
Yeah.
see us not fighting for the people that's trying to. So, how do you feel about that, Myron? Because it really just blows my mind sometimes.
It's terrible. Texas has the largest population of Black people in any state in the nation.
That's right. That's
Right.
right.
We start there. James Tallarico said, not his literal words, but his campaign was, we're going to go after the white vote in Texas and the Latino vote in Texas
Wow.
because we're
Wow.
going to concede the black vote to Jasmine Crockett. And she did get 90% of the black vote,
Hmm.
90%. And both candidates got over 1 million votes. So voting, so the in a primary that's a lot, and in Texas that's a lot. That's the most that's happened in years, right? However, that's only about 13% of the people that were eligible to vote actually got out and voted. It
Mm,
wasn't a lot of people overall. It was a lot relative to how it has happened in the past. And so
yeah.
his strategy, whether we like it or not, it worked. He got elected because he focused on Latino and he focused on white. And like you said, lumping us together, othering us as a group, black and
Mm,
brown voters, that ain't a thing. Now, if we're very specific, Latino women will break for Jasmine, right? And that
hmm.
was true. That was true of Kamala. Latina women broke for Kamala. Latino
Wow.
men, they go white. Latino men go white, and more specifically, they go away from black women.
Mm,
They're not going to vote for. They're not going to vote at a majority for black women. And you also can't talk about any loss in Texas without talking about voter disenfranchisement, voter suppression, and gerrymandering. Now, I'm in a blue state, and I made the point that when blue state Democrats talk about, well, why don't they just get out and vote? And you're talking about southern states, the Confederate states where most black people live, it is hard to vote.
yeah.
It is purposely hard to vote. And I made the point, I've lived in one house for 23 years. I have two
Mm,
voting locations that I can walk to, either a block this way or a block that way. It's that easy. And I get a sample ballot 2 months before. I get the
wow.
real ballot. And when I fill out my ballot, I can leave it on my mailbox at my house, the mail person to pick it up. And then I get a text message from the post office saying they got my ballot. And then I get a text message from the registrar of voters, they got my ballot. And then I get a text message that says my ballot has been counted. I never have to leave my house. It is that easy. But if I want to leave my house, I walk one block that way or one block that way. It's that simple. And people in Texas were saying they could have voted um, 15 minutes away. But one person said they went there. They was said, no, your ballot's not here. You got to go to the other place. It was 45 minutes away. And they
That's
said it's
right.
not there. They had to go back to the other place and say, okay, yeah, you're right. It is here. And it is not as simple as saying they just didn't get out and vote because
Mm,
there are some issues. Now, with that being said, if we have a Democratic Party and the most loyal Democratic voter are black women and black men, why in 2026 is it still so hard for black people across the South to vote? Because you know why? Because it's not important to white people in the party that we have to wait in line 3 and 4 hours to vote. They don't care. They don't care. And so I made the point. I have voted Democrat in every city, state, county, and federal election since I was 18-year-old back in the 80s. But there are people in the Democratic Party. There are black people who say, why are you supporting that party? They don't support you. And I'm telling you, when things like this happen with Jasmine Crockett, with Val Demings, with Stacey Abrams, with Kamala Harris, you give more credence to the point, why are you supporting that party and that party not supporting you?
talk about it, Myron. And, to your point about voter suppression, here in Atlanta, where people deem as the Black Mecca, I try to tell people that that's actually not true anymore. Because when it comes to voting, I experienced this even in college voting. You see long lines at every voting poll where you see old ladies not able to get water. They have to stand in line for 3, 4 hours. There's only one location. And as you know, Atlanta traffic is treacherous, man. So
Yes,
you have to fight hard just to stand in line. And then by the
just to
time you've
stay
been
in
in line
line.
for 3, 4 hours, you see blue collar workers coming from warehouses. In fact, they got to get back to work. So now these people who waited
Yes,
for 3 hours just say, F it, man, I got to go clock back in. So to your point, this is so strategic in the South in these black states like Mississippi, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, the Floridas. That's where we're being suppressed the most when it comes
that's
to
where
our
being
vote.
suppressed. Look, in
Yeah,
California, because most black people are blue collar hourly workers,
that's
the
right.
most. And in California, you could get time off to vote. They
Wow.
won't hold it. They won't hold it against your attendance. That is. So if you need to leave early to go vote, you work that out ahead of time. You're not going to
Mm,
get a written warning and all kind of BS. It's very easy. And so I made the point to caution blue state Democrats not to look down on how difficult it is to vote in the old Confederacy for Black people because it is designed to suppress our vote. Because Republicans have always said the more we vote, the more they lose.
Yeah.
Right? It's that simple. But I will also say I don't want to let the party off the hook
Mm-mm.
because the party knows this. Like you said, in Atlanta, the Black Mecca, why are we taking hours to vote? Why are the Republicans surgically go through and look at here's how Black people vote. They vote last minute, they vote on the day of, they vote, they take a bus here, souls to the polls, make all that stuff illegal, don't let them give water. They surgically harm, don't put it on college campuses, close voting
Yep.
locations, make it so you can't do it by mail, all this stuff
No
that
parking.
direct, yes, no parking.
You're right,
It,
Brian. And
it's
surgical
awful.
is the word because I think people really have to like understand this was a slow burn, right? If you go back to 2020, a state like Georgia turns blue. That's not supposed to happen. South
Not
Georgia,
supposed to
Myron,
happen.
I kid you not. There are Confederate flags on the highways in South Georgia. See, people think about Atlanta. The moment that
Right,
you drive outside of Atlanta,
right.
you see Confederate flags. You see a white Jesus on a billboard with the M16 and the Bible in it. Myron, I can't make this up.
That
This
is
is real.
crazy. And
This
so
is real.
it's upsetting because then you say somebody like James Tallarico who says, "Oh, I can quote the Bible, and
Mm,
that Trump is a child of God, and MAGA they're not racist, and I can talk to them." And then the white people in the Democratic Party go, "Yeah, that's our guy." Because we want to reconcile with our white MAGA family. We need someone that can talk to them, and they go with him. Even so far, if we get out of Texas and go to Maine, they're telling us we should support a Nazi up in Maine. Right, Graham Plattner, that guy, Nazi, all right wing Nazi extremism his entire life, and then he just said, "Okay, I'm going to run as a Democrat." And the white Democrats are telling black Democrats, and quite frankly, telling the Jewish Democrats, "Shut your mouth, get in the car, put your seatbelt on. We don't want to hear your voice. Just vote
fall in
for our
line.
guy."
Fall in line. And Myron, Malcolm X, he warned us about this, right? Of the white
Yeah,
liberal.
yeah.
And it's so crazy, right? We're talking about 60 plus years ago, over half a century.
They're
And we're
dangerous.
right back at this point. Myron, please just break down for our viewers, listeners, of the dangers of that borderline racist white liberal. How is that
It,
dangerous?
So it is dangerous in the way that Malcolm, Dr. King, and so
Mm,
many black
yeah.
thinkers, right,
Yep.
through the years have said that the soft is very soft racism, and it
Yeah, that's
lulls
the
us.
word.
It does, and it lulls into a sense of complacency,
Mm,
it's insidious because it makes us think that well, this person is an ally and they never have our interests at heart. And that's why, like I just said, if it's hard for black people to vote across the South and white people control all the levers of power, why aren't white Democrats upset at that? And you can
mm,
extrapolate that. Why aren't white Democrats upset that Donald Trump is closing and messing with Black history and firing 300,000 Black women and closing the African American History Museum or all these restrictions? Why is that only our problem? And we are in the same party with white people. It's not their problem. And that is soft bigotry,
mm.
and it's the acceptance of how these things are. And I've talked about why aren't white people who we consider allies, or they self-proclaim their allies, and they're in the same political party, why aren't they more upset about ICE? Why aren't they more upset about what's happening with this war? And right now, we have white people in this country, they're the most hated white people in the world. Like of all the white people in the world, the American white people are the most hated white people in the world. And most of the white people we know, whether we live by them, work with them, we go to restaurants, we go to sporting events, we watch the Super Bowl, we watch, the award shows. They're just like, okay, okay, well, this is bad. This is bad. And white people around the world, in Italy, in England, they're in streets protesting. And these white people who are in the same political party as us are telling us just vote for the Nazi here and be quiet. That is insidious.
Ooh, that's right, Myron. And with what I'm about to say, it might seem far left, but after, right, seeing how our brother Delroy Lindo was treated in that moment, Michael B. Jordan, right, where that white dude gets all the excuses in the world. And then a few weeks later, gas prices, the Strait of Hormuz gets shut down. here in Atlanta, like our gas is typically, I know in Cali, y'all's gas is always super high.
It's
But
crazy.
our gas, Myron, I kid you not, it jumped from like 209, 215, all the way up to 345 overnight.
Wow.
345 overnight. So you can see direct impact of this. And it's so funny now seeing how we could be called an N-word on stage, but a few weeks later, white people are now panicking because jobs are getting cut. All their tech bro jobs are now starting to get cut. All of these things. Michael Eric Dyson said something beautiful. I'm on CNN. He said, "Welcome to being black. You are now getting nigger treatment." And I said, "That's a fact." Do you think right now that white people are finally seeing just a glimpse of what it feels like to be black in America?
I think they're feeling the effects, and my fear is that they're not making that connection,
Mm,
right? Because we like Michael Eric Dyson says, a great writer and speaker, and he's right. They're getting a small sample. When you see white people complaining that, oh, Congress isn't stopping this president,
yeah.
or the Justice Department isn't releasing those files that prove that that man is a pedophile, a murderer, a
Mm,
cannibal, and all this other stuff, and they're frustrated at the system. We can say, and I've said this online, you're getting a small taste of what we experienced, because if you can go back in history, they knew who all the Klansmen were. They knew who the FBI were that killed all the Black Panthers. They know that we are something like 80% of exonerations from wrongly convicted people. We're most of the people. If someone gets off death row, it's us. They know all these things, and yet they walk around like everything is okay all the time. And if they're frustrated now that he's bombing Iran, bombing a girls' school, and that's spiraling out of control, and then, like you said, Iran decides we're going to shut the Straits of Hormuz. And now our gas
wow.
prices go up. Why people be more mad at their gas prices going up than a school of 7 and 12-year-old girls being bombed by their pedophile president?
Mm. Can't
It's
make this
something.
stuff
So
up.
you can't make this stuff up. So yeah, I do think he's right that they're feeling the effects of being treated like a small percentage, a small part of how we're treated every day and how we have to survive and thrive in this land. Like they
Mm,
are seeing that. Their outburst of being upset about Renee Good and the
yeah.
other guy being killed in Minneapolis. And
Hmm.
we had Keith Porter in LA, but we could point to another thousand. Another
I'm trying to
thousand.
tell you.
Yeah, we tried to tell you. We tried to tell you. And so I do think they're getting, but I don't know if they'll make that connection from understanding and realizing it and then trying to do something about it. Because they're
Mm.
trying to do something about it is telling us we don't need your voice, we just need your vote.
Whew. That's right, Myron. And speaking about Iran, I kid you not, last Saturday night, I'm a night owl, so I'm just up chilling, playing the game, and I see ABC News pop up on my phone notification. Donald Trump is live. Iran strike. I'm like, bro, this isn't real. And I clicked
This
the
isn't
link
real.
because mind you, it's 3 in the morning Eastern time. Like, there's no way. And I click it. I'm like, is this AI? Like he's talking about, yes, we have bombed Iran. I'm like, wow, this is real.
A
And I
mess.
couldn't I couldn't text anybody. So I'm like, everybody's probably asleep. But first thing in the morning, my phone is just blowing up left and right. And
Mine
Myron,
too.
he does this in the middle of the night. What were your initial thoughts from seeing President Trump up there talking about doing this
Man,
to Iran?
listen. Look, I'm older, right? I'm 61.
Mm,
And I know I'm old enough to remember the Iranian, what we call the Iranian hostage crisis in
yep,
1979. But
yep,
I also studied how that came about in the 50s when the US put the Shah of Iran in, right? They
that's
put
right.
him in charge of that country. And then the revolutionaries, students, mostly students, took over in 79 because they were sick of his dictatorial power and him listening to the West. And they put a religious leader in. Now, in fairness, he turned into a dictator too, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
And we call it the Iranian hostage crisis, but people forget that the Iranians let the black people go after a week.
Hello. Yeah.
And women, they were like, we know y'all oppressed and we are supporting the oppressed people around the world. Right. And so I also remember that when President Obama got in office, he said, we're going to bring Iran back into the world community, right? We're going to get rid of these sanctions. We're going to put a plan in place where they dismantled any nuclear work they have. They can still use nuclear energy, and we're gonna get them to agree to international UN inspections. And the Republicans laughed at him and said it'll never happen. And that was in 2007 and 8 after he got elected. They signed on to have no nuclear weapons in 2015, and it was
Yep.
ratified in 2016. They were allowing inspections. It was working. And then Trump got elected. He threw it out. And so the long game, it took a long time to get that from the 50s installing him, from the revolution in 79 to Obama getting elected, to it being signed in 2015, ratified in 2016. Trump gets elected. He threw it out. And now 10 years later, we're at war with Iran over what? Because he doesn't want the files to come out, like over what? And now it is
Mm.
expanding. You have 12 nations in the Middle East that are being bombed. It has slid into Azerbaijan. They got bombed, and they're saying they're going to retaliate. Iran bombed Cyprus. You just spilling into Europe. Now the U.S. is asking Ukraine for help in shooting down those $20,000 drones that are destroying billion-dollar equipment, and our $1 million Patriot missiles. It takes two to hit one, and we don't have an unlimited supply. And they're
Right.
straining oil out the Gulf, and that's where China gets most of it. And and the Ukraine was trained by Canada on how to shoot down those Russian drones. Now Russia is helping Iran. That's how you get World War. All because that man at 3 in the morning decides to bomb Iran.
Let them know, Myron, you broke it down beautifully, brother. You read my mind because Myron, what nobody is talking about, financial costs, right? You just brought up something I
Yes.
was just about to ask you. To your point, Iran's missiles are only roughly between $20,000 and $50,000. To shoot
Yes.
them down from our end, you're talking about approximately $1.4 million. And like you said, that takes two. You do the
Takes
math, it's
two.
2.8. So that's 2.8 million each time just to strike down their missiles. Can you please just
We're,
break down
we're,
the
we're, we're already at this war is costing us $1 billion a day. Right.
talk
And
about that, Myron?
it hasn't even been ramped up yet. And so when the president a week ago, he said, well, it might be 3 or 4 days. And now we're a week later, go, well, it might be a few weeks, 5 6 weeks, but also they may attack us here on this soil and people may die. Like, it's so cavalier. It's just, oh, do that. And now they're arguing, according to the Washington Post and Politico, they're arguing because Pete, I call him G.I. Michelob, Pete
He's a
Kegsbrass,
joke.
that guy, he's a joke.
Yeah.
He wants to put boots on the ground. And if you look at analysts outside, military analysts outside the US, you can see it on the BBC, on CBC in Canada, or on The Guardian, or even Al Jazeera. They're saying, look, Iran has been preparing for this war for 40 something years.
Mm.
They got mountains this way, they got ocean that way, they got all the equipment inside the mountains, and they have studied the weak points of those domes, those iron domes that Israel have, and all that, and they have unlimited, not unlimited, but they have so many more of those $20,000 to $50,000 drones, right? And they say they can't go toe to toe with them, but we could bomb Kuwait, we could bomb Dubai, we could bomb
Yes.
Saudi, Israel, the UAE, and the US cannot protect all of that. They've already destroyed two of our batteries. They're called batteries, and
Mhm.
those are the sensors that can spot the drones coming and the missiles coming, and it covers a wide area. Those are $1 billion a piece. They destroyed two with a $20,000 or $50,000 drone. And you know what? We only have 12 of them, and two are already gone, just like that. In the
And that's
first
$2
week,
billion dollars right there, to your point.
$2
That's 2
billion,
billion.
$2 billion. And look, when oil goes up, it's going to affect our economy. We already know corporate America is slashing jobs, and they slashed more jobs last month. The jobs report is out. Food and prices, everything is up, and we have no allies helping us. He
Hmm.
started a military action in Ecuador. We already know what he did in Venezuela and participated in that mess in Mexico. And then Spain just said, well, you can't use our bases as a flag
Yep.
ground. And Donald Trump said, we don't care, we'll use them anyway. Well, you can't just fight everybody. So I don't know where we're going with this, but from a monetary standpoint, it's going to cost too much. And I don't think our economy as it is, and our government bonds, and the investments we have from former allies, and the debt that is owed to China
Mm,
specifically, will allow this to continue very long. That's what I think. And if it does, I think it'll be to our detriment as a nation.
my goodness. You were right on the money, Myron. No pun intended, man. But like, I think about this too. World War II. If we, slightly backtrack, I think about FDR, right, where you try to pull your people out of this Great Depression. I have my own, conspiracy theories about Pearl Harbor and why he allowed that to happen to allow
Hmm.
big
Hmm.
business and factory jobs, all of those things. Do you think Trump is thinking he's like FDR in this moment that maybe if I start World War III, I could create more jobs for this economy? I can create billions of dollars for a Bezos, Zuckerberg, all these people. How do you feel about that theory, Myron?
I think there's some truth to that. I saw a report today that one of the targets that Iran is going after are data centers.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
and that impacts all the big technology companies. And I do agree with you that as awful as it sounds, war is good for the economy and for jobs and things
Mm,
like that. It is, right. And we know our economy is in the tank, and we know we're headed towards the midterms. And he
yeah.
wants something to prop him. He and his people. It's not just him, right? It's the Steve Bannons, the Kushner. It's all these people. They want something to rally Republicans because Republicans will be more patriotic if
Mm,
the country is at war, right? That's what they think. And so he's going after the hit list of Republicans, right? You start getting black people, you go after the Mexicans in Mexico, you go after the Cubans, and now you go after the Iranians. These are just the hit list of the enemies of Republicans for the entirety of my life. He's given them their meat. That's what he's doing. And now it's like, well, what's going to happen? Like, is that going to work? Are companies going to start hiring? Do they have to like all of a sudden institute the draft, or will he do what many people are saying, find a way, hopefully is the wrong word, but I think they may be hoping for Iran to do something inside the state so he can cancel elections. But now we're in such a world. How do we know it won't be them that do some false flag right here in the country and
come
blame it
on,
on
Myron.
Iran, shut down
Yeah.
elections?
Myron, man, I try to tell people that too. Like, he's been trying to start conflict and war so he won't have to leave that presidential seat. It's so
That's
obvious.
what
But
it
then
is.
also, another theory that a lot of people sleep on are the sleeper cells, where you don't know Iranians, they could already be here. They
They
could
could
already
already
be in
be
this
here.
country,
Yeah,
ready
we,
to.
we, we, we've heard that for 40 years. The United States government has told us for 40 years that Iran is the world's number one exporter of terrorism. That's what we've always heard. We've always heard that, and that they have sleeper cells all across the West. And that means here in the States. And so when he said that, I thought, well, we've heard that forever, that they're capable of doing that.
Yeah.
They haven't done it yet. But now I'm like, well, if they do it, how do we know it's not just Steve Bannon and them guys doing it? Like, you know what I mean? It's crazy. But I do think between now, what is this, March? I think between March and say about September, October, before the midterms, I think we'll have an event here in this country. That's what I think.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. He Hegseth, man. He's a joke, Myron, like who you just talked about earlier.
Uh,
But seeing him in those press conferences talking like he's playing Call of Duty, where we're destroying them. We've done this, we've done that. We are now the Department of War. What do you think is this like psychological thing on the far right when it comes to wanting to conquer? Because I think about Manifest Destiny, where they feel this paternalism, right? Where
it
racist
does.
white Americans sometimes feel like the white man's burden is to conquer, is to
Yeah.
control everything. Where do you think that this source is coming from? Because hearing him talk, Myron, it was very, very concerning.
Is very concerning. And I think that I've talked about this before, that we all know people. If we just think about the black community, we all know people. Say we're out just at a picnic or playing basketball or
Hmm.
just we know when someone is just talking shit and they're a punk.
And they can't stand on it. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
right, that's him,
Yeah.
right? We know people like him, right? He has no accomplishments in the military. He's a
Nope.
Fox News host, but now he has the toys of the U.S. military, right? So he says all these things, his bluster and his all this tough talk and everything, and he is typical of the person that the older people in our community used to say, "You're going to write a check, your mouth to write a check that your ass can't cash."
Whew. That's
Right?
right.
That's him, and I think it's to our detriment as a company, as a country, that guy is in charge of the military. That guy, he doesn't know strategy. They got rid of all those generals that knew how to operate in the
Hmm.
theater of war, who knew how to plan. they couldn't even get their messaging right if it was a war. Marco Rubio was saying it was a war. Hegseth said it was a war. They had to walk that back and say, no, it's a military event. They're
Mission,
not even
yes, a
a
mission.
mission, right? And
Yeah,
now Washington Post is reporting they're trying to figure out how do they didn't anticipate Iran being able to close the Strait of Hormuz. They didn't
yeah,
anticipate this, and this. And that is exactly what military strategy is all about. But they fired all the Hegseth fired all the people who knew all that stuff. And they
mm,
put kids in charge. They put Dodge in charge. They don't know what they're doing. That's the end result. They don't know what they're doing. And we got to be, sometimes it comes off as mean towards Jewish people, but I want to separate Jewish people from Benjamin Netanyahu. That guy is a
right.
war criminal,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Just like we say Donald Trump is a war criminal and is a criminal, so is Benjamin Netanyahu. And we can say that
Hmm.
without saying we hate Jewish people. Like
That's right.
Benjamin Netanyahu, that guy has been saying for 30 years that Iran was going to attack them.
Since I
And
was
Iran ain't
born,
done
Myron,
shit.
in '96. Yes, since I was
Yeah,
born.
he's been saying that they're going
It's
to launch a
crazy.
nuclear missile, right, for decades, and he is gloating at the fact that he got a chump in Donald Trump and Hegseth who say now they can go fight this war.
Mm.
And I'm like, look, I got a daughter in college. I don't want my daughter going to fight a war because Benjamin Yahoo got an issue with Iran. That's some bull. That's some BS,
He got
man.
to handle his own business. Like you said growing up, we ain't going to
Yeah,
jump in. You got to fight him yourself.
you
It's a
got
fair
you
fight.
man, look, I'm not jumping in. I got no issue with them. Like
That's right.
you see a lot of black people online saying, "Hey, Iran, we got no issue
We ain't
with
got no
you."
problem with you. That's right. That's
Don't
right, Myron.
look. Mar-a-Lago is where your problem is. Go get Mar-a-Lago.
That's right. And to your point, brother, Ned Nahu, like we don't talk about him enough. And Jared Kushner, right, where you see people with these ties to Israel. Is Donald Trump a puppet for them? Because it's like the moment he gets into office, he's instantly doing their bidding. Instantly.
You know what? They announced that on 30 different bases. I think it was 30 different either groups of military people or bases that they were told by Pete Hegseth's military that Donald Trump was sent by God and
Yeah.
they were fighting a war to
A
spark
biblical war.
a biblical war to spark Armageddon so that Jesus could return, right? That is that white nationalism, evangelical deal. And they believe, that they have to protect Israel because that means that's where Jesus is going to come back. So, and Benjamin Netanyahu knows that these dummies think that. And so he is the smarter of that group. He wasn't smarter than Obama. That's why he hated Obama,
That's
right?
right.
And Obama used to hold him to account. However, that guy is in charge of that country. They got nuclear weapons. They got our military. Our military,
Mm,
we're just their mercenaries.
mm,
And so I do think that he manipulates Donald Trump in them, but I also think it's the evangelicals and the white nationalists and the Christian nationalists that manipulate Donald Trump because he's a willing fool.
mm. He's a willing fool. That's powerful, Myron. Hearing about our troops, feel so sorry for them, right? I think about
Oh,
Vietnam, right? Think about Iraq, where they were told it was weapons of mass destruction, and you go there and it's just women and children there, right? And it's nothing there, and you fight there for 20 years, and so many men's bodies got mutilated, all these things, right? PTSD. And then I think about right now, right, where we saw that young Marine there, right, talking and saying, we are not fighting for Israel. And you break his forearm and you
okay,
kick him out, right? So just seeing
brutal.
how that's going down, where you see a decorated soldier saying, I don't want to fight this war. What feelings of sentiment do you have towards our troops right now who are fighting an uninspired, quote unquote, military mission?
I'm old enough to remember protests against military veterans returning from Vietnam.
Mm,
Like I'm old enough to remember that. And I made a post the other day that styles make fights. So you
styles
can
make
have it
fights.
right. You know that from boxing. You can have a
Yep.
knockout puncher, but you have a guy that know how to slip punches and counter punch. They can win the fight on points, right?
Mm,
And the U.S. found out you can say you're the biggest, the baddest, and all this, but then we got our ass kicked in Vietnam.
yep.
And now you're saying, well, we're the biggest and baddest, and we can go to Iran. And Iran is like, we got a different strategy, right? And so styles make fights. Just because you're the biggest, don't mean the bully always win. And I
Mm,
think our military the rank and file, the soldiers, the front line people, and most of them are a significant number of them are black and brown. Let's say
That's right.
they know you don't have a strategy, you don't have an extra strategy, you don't have a mission. Like, what are you there to
Mm,
do? And I just think, like you said, they broke that veteran's arms by saying, I don't want to fight a war for Israel. Like, that's not what I
mm.
signed up for. And they
I don't
broke
want to
his
die for
hand.
that.
I don't want to die for that. And I think that's
Mm,
legitimate. And I'm telling you, at some point, you're going to have a military that's fractured. And when you
yeah.
have a military that's fractured, like whether it's a football team or whether it's
Mm,
a work team at group, if that team is not on the same page, they're not going to accomplish what you need them to accomplish. And
ooh,
you can't just do everything by bombing in the air.
mm,
Like, there's no proof in history that if you just bomb from the air, you're going to do something, because they didn't just change regimes. Like, they didn't take out a president like they did in Venezuela. They took out a religious leader.
mm,
And look, I'm not saying that man wasn't awful. He didn't harm
mm,
people, and that some Iranians are happy about that. But ain't no Iranians happy that they bombed that they carpet bombed Tehran the other day. They carpet bombed a major metropolitan city after destroying that girls' school. And
mhm.
so I think that, again, going back to, I remember Vietnam veterans coming back after just getting wasted over in that war, coming back not as heroes, but as villains. And that has never gone away. That has never
Right.
gone away. And I think that may happen with this group unless they find some off ramp to get out of this mess.
That's right, Myron. Styles win fights, right? I think
Styles
about
win
Ali,
fights.
rope a dope, strategy, all those
Right.
things, right? Where, George Foreman, I don't think kids understand, Myron, how big heavyweights were back in the day. Where you talk
Right.
about
It was the
George
sport.
Foreman, Ali's not supposed to win that, right? But
Not
I
at
say
all.
all of that to say that he had strategy, rope a dope. I think about Iran strategically attacking Dubai, where you have everybody at the five-star hotels and you
Right.
have Live Golf. Like, I don't think people understand Live Golf was over there.
Yeah.
And you have airstrikes, you have WNBA players over there, overseas basketball players. And now people are stranded and there's bomb striking. So now you are getting the world's attention. Do you think Iran is being slept on for how strategic they're being right now during this time, Myron?
I saw somebody say, and I'm gonna say this too. You think the people that invented algebra couldn't figure out numbers?
Mm,
They are ancient people. Like, they're not just sitting around just doing nothing. And so I think they are very strategic. And they have figured out that if we go back into the sports analogy, and I made this point too, it's hard to win a road game.
man, yes,
Like,
it is. Yes, it
in any
is.
sport.
Yeah.
And you know what? Here's what happens. And we know this from sports. You could be the superior team, better coaching. You could have Michael Jordan, LeBron. It doesn't matter. If you go into on the road and you give that team a little bit of
Momentum.
momentum, everything
Mm,
can change all of a sudden. And then that's why
yeah.
we have something called upsets.
Mm,
Like, it's sometimes, even if you don't, if the home team doesn't win because they're just the worst team, but they still might get some sacks, some interceptions.
yeah.
You still might have to win on the last second field goal.
Mm,
And so we're going to their land, 10, 12,000 miles away. They've already let all the neighbors know we're going to attack you too. And those neighbors don't have militaries.
no.
They paid Donald Trump billions for us to protect them.
My goodness, that's a great analogy, Myron. And it's like seeing this happen. How is this even legally possible, Myron, to see a president doing military missions, which is basically a quasi-war without approval from Congress,
It's
United
awful.
Nations? How is he pulling this off, Myron?
It's off of the president of peace who said he ended 8 wars. And now we got the whole flames. You know what? You mentioned earlier about um, white supremacy, about imperialism, colonialism,
Hmm.
like the whole deal. You have a man with the entire political party that backs him. They could
Wow.
have stopped. They could have put in war powers yesterday. Every Republican voted it down. And I think 4 or 7 Democrats who were in purple, red districts, but somehow they won, they voted it down too. They could have stopped it. And except for one person, I think maybe two, everybody that voted it down are white. I think there was one Latino guy, maybe like one black guy like Byron Daniels or something. I don't know, just some random person or something. And at some point you have to sit back and say, well, wait a minute. This is a white people war. This is a white people act of aggression, and their
Man.
white base supports it.
Mm.
And now, in fairness, I have seen some MAGA people. That Nick Fuentes guy went online and said, "We don't support war. We don't support
Megan
um,
Kelly.
Megan Kelly." I mean, there are
Yeah.
some that are speaking out, said, "This is not what we signed up for. You're doing
Yeah.
all this, but you know what? You did because you gave him the power to do it." And the American corporations that bowed down to him, you gave him the power. And big media, Megan Kelly, Nick Fuentes, y'all all gave him the power. You can't back down now and say, well, this is not what we wanted. Yeah, it is.
Mm.
You didn't want an old Biden in there or a black woman, Kamala Harris, in there. You put a 78-year-old man in bad health who might have some dementia. You already knew he was a pedophile. You gave
Oof.
him what you call the greatest military in world history. You said, here you go.
And he's playing Call of Duty now in real life. And
He playing Call of
hearing that,
Duty.
right, where I see people have, buyer's remorse about Trump right now, I find it very, very ironic, Myron, because these same people that thought about big business, our economy is terrible, all of these things. Do you think Trump will actually finish this presidency, in your own opinion? And I'm not saying, assassination, but I'm saying, do you feel like he will be impeached possibly? Because I'm seeing that everybody's tense right now. And for
Mm-hmm.
once, I think even watching Joe Budden's podcast earlier, they barely talk about politics, but seeing how everybody seems so sad and everybody's like, yo, times are real. Do you feel like Trump will finish this second presidency in full?
I think that he will be alive, but I don't think he'll
Mhm.
finish the presidency. And
No.
I'm going to say that as in my second career, I worked with senior citizens and senior housing.
Mm.
So I worked with a lot of seniors um, who aged into dementia and Alzheimer's and being incapable of taking care of themselves, right? So these
Yeah.
are seniors like Donald Trump's age, like
Hmm.
65 and up, 65 to 100. And a couple of things I learned was that, particularly with the men, that as they recognize that their time is limited, they become more fatalistic
Yeah.
and they're okay with burning things down. They don't have the power to, but they verbalize it. And also they become more just fatalistic. They know their time is ending. And so Donald Trump seems to have, in my own experience, I'm not a doctor, but I just worked with seniors for a long time. I recognize some of the things that he does and says, how he acts, and some of his, he obviously has some medical issues because he slurs and he falls asleep
Yeah.
and all these kind of things. And I think we won't know for 2 or 3 weeks or up to a month that he's going to be incapacitated. That's what I think. But they will keep him alive. They'll keep it from the public as long as they can to do some things. And I think that'll happen before, I don't know when, but my guess is it'll happen before the end of his term. That's what I think.
Yeah. I believe you, Myron. Gil Scott Heron, the great Gil Scott Heron has a famous quote. Everybody loves peace, but the problem is you can't make no money off of it.
Woo!
Why do you think America can never just chill, Myron? It's like black people, we mind our business. If you want to start something, of course, we'll be ready to fight. But it's like black people as a whole, we always try to stay out the way. But why do you think America as a country can never just mind their business?
I have a saying that I've said frequently in the past couple of years. It's that white supremacy is never satisfied or never satiated.
Ooh.
Never. And so even if you think about just what he has done since he's been in office, right? Not against um, the Latino community, right? Down either in this country or Mexico, Venezuela, whatever. Just think about how he has alienated white nations. He alienated Canada, right? Some of the friendliest white people in the world, right? He has alienated Great Britain. He has
Yep.
alienated the Swedes. He has gone against white people because white people in America believe that they're superior to all of us in America, right? United States, but they believe that they're on the top of all other white people, right? That all other white people are below them. And that
Mm.
is the American style white supremacy is never satisfied, never satiated. That's why if we say, well, great, we had President Obama, we want another black president, they're going, no, you
Mm.
had one.
Mm.
You had one. Like that's enough. And or if a sports team has too many black players, we have too many black players on this team, right? Or if Halle Bailey wants to be the mermaid, we don't want a black mermaid. Like they want every single thing, like locusts, like everything, and they want us. And if I go back to our original point when we first came in, it's not just Republicans. It is white people overall because the
Yeah.
Democratic Party, as I said, are looking like they don't want our voice, they just want our vote. And
Mm.
that is another type of soft sell white supremacy is never satisfied, is never satiated.
Ooh, soft sell white supremacy, Myron. I think about
Yeah.
film centers, right? Where I think about Remick at
Yes.
that door. And once again, we're trying to mind our business, but then I think about those Klansmen at the very beginning. I'll take your money, but then I'm gonna burn it down the following day. So it's like having to fight different
Yes.
forms of it. With that being said, what do we do next with our votes for the midterms? Because I feel like we aren't being heard, but times are so serious. I'm like, guys, what
I
are we
know.
doing? What are we doing?
We are in a tough spot because
Yeah.
I am an advocate of voting, that our forefathers and ancestors
Mm,
bled, died, fought for us to get the right to vote,
yeah.
right? And we have since the civil rights movement, we have um, we have been in lockstep with one another in voting
Hmm.
for the party that we thought could do the um the, the most, but also the least amount of damage, right?
Yeah.
We've I don't believe the Democrats are this, but they've been better than Republicans overall, right? And
Hmm.
sometimes you got to take that incrementally. But now that party is saying, you know what? We sort of like this. We sort of like just white people. We want to get the white people vote. And so the conundrum we're in is: do we push that forward, or do we abandon it? And so I think for this upcoming midterm, we have to deal with the now. The now is we got to flip the house. And the only way to flip
Yeah.
the house is we have to vote. And the only way to vote, in my opinion, we got to vote for Democrats. However,
Hmm.
I'm going to answer you long term. I believe that long term, that black people, as voting people, we need to step back and we need to become kingsmakers or
Yeah.
queensmakers. We need
Yeah.
to say, you know what? Our voting block, because no matter how you look at it, 90% of black women and 87% of black men, that's overwhelming vote one way, right? We need to step back and say, which party is going to deliver us the most in this next term? Who has the best? And then we say, we're going to go this way, where we're not going to be loyal to any party. We're going to be loyal to the party that offers us the most each and every election. And that's how a lot of countries do it. You just say, look, you can't get a coalition. You can't win without our vote. We're going to step back. We're going to withhold our vote until the candidate and the party says, specific to you, not 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 the
Minorities.
Asian community, not minorities, not people of color, specific to black people, because it is a fact that no group of people in this country has put more into this country and got the
Dang.
least amount out of this country. That's
Mm.
what I'm saying.
Ooh, what have you done for me lately? Myron, I think about the late great Medgar Evers, right? Who was
Uh,
literally murdered in his driveway in Mississippi because of fighting for us to have the right to vote in front of his children.
in
And
front of his children.
thinking about that, Myron, man, you said something so powerful because it's like here in the South of like my grandmother, like we talked about before, she picked cotton. Like they have a farm. Like these stories are still fresh. And then it's like
Fresh.
seeing that we're still having to fight for basic things, Myron. If you can, for people who don't understand our struggle as Black Americans, why are we so entrenched to this country? Because I think, people always say, well, we should move, but then I'm like, white supremacy is everywhere. So
Right.
why is our issue so unique as Black Americans in this country, Myron?
Everything that grows in this country, that fuels this country, and I'm talking about food to
Mm,
clothing to manufacturing, all of that is infused with the blood of our people. That though we say we're African American, and I respect that because that's the cradle of civilization. We
yeah,
are United States, right? We're Americans,
yeah, yeah,
right? We're Americans, and
yeah.
our people have made the West, not just America, wealthy. This is our country, and I say this to white people. You know what? We are co-owners of this country. You're
That's
not the
right.
owners. We're not the tenants. We're
Mm,
co-owners, right? This is ours. That every benefit that white people have in this country is because black people are in this country, and so if I think back, because we all come from the South at some point. My father was born in Texas. My grandparents
that's
born in
right.
Texas. My other grandparents born in Louisiana.
You
My
talking about
my
Deep South?
Deep South.
Mm,
My grandparents went in Texas when they went to register to vote. It was white men with rifles. They had to walk through that to get the right to vote. They have to walk through it. And then just even in my lifetime, my mother took us to vote with her when we were little, my brothers and I. She dressed up to go vote because the progress that we've made in this country, we've gotten through the vote. And I'm not silly. I know it hasn't been fast enough. It hasn't been enough. And it's been fits and starts and slow and slow. And then we got setbacks. There's always a white backlash to everything we're doing. However, this is our country.
Mm,
We don't have a home on the motherland. We don't have
yep.
any stake. Right, our
Yeah.
parents are and grandparents and great grandparents. We're buried right here,
They died here, man. Yeah.
right here. This is our country, and so white
Mm,
people can deny it. They can act like they're the landlords. They're not the
mhm.
landlords, right? We're co-owners.
Talk about it. Man, Myron, beautiful breakdown, brother. In 2026, right? It's so interesting seeing how my parents, when I hear them talk about how rent used to only be like a couple $100s here in Atlanta
Yeah,
in their 20s, but then ours starts at 2000. I know California is always at the top, but just
it's
seeing
crazy.
inflation go 10x in just a 20-year gap, what demands should we have in 2026? Because I think our problems now compared to 20 years ago, even 30 years ago, it was similar. But now we have times where it's very unique, where we have, like you said, your daughter, she's in college. Gen Zers are graduating from college, but not able to find jobs. So,
Right.
what demands should we have in this unique, unprecedented time in 2026 for the midterms?
I have a suggestion. I say that we hold for the midterms, and then 2028, any candidate, if it's not Kamala or Wes
Mm,
Moore or
yeah.
something like that, if we end up with some white candidate, we take Kamala's platform and say we want this because
Mm,
Kamala she was 25 to $50,000 for new homeowners,
yep.
right? We'll give you this money. Take her program, give us that because that's what we wanted, and that's what the
Mm,
majority of us voted. So give us that, and if they don't want to give us that, I'm telling you, we just say, you know
that's
what,
it. I'm cool.
that's it. And so it does, from a on the ground perspective, it is hard because yes, rent is up, food is up, and what is the likelihood of Gen Z or
Mm,
after that can buy a home in these markets?
man.
It's hard, and we're talking about wages are depressed, unemployment is up, and now we're in a war.
I know it'll drive me crazy. Gas right. So, Myra, people are spending their last, man. I'm seeing people's stories where they're spending their last right now just to get to work because of the gas prices.
It's hard. It's hard, and like you said, California always has high gas because we overtax gas to pay for other stuff like clean air, water, schools,
Mm,
and all this kind of stuff. And it has worked. LA used to be the
yeah.
small capital of the world. Our air is relatively clean out here now.
Mm,
So, but I also think that it is important that we let these politicians know this isn't acceptable. And
mm,
unfortunately, the only way we could get these things is through voting.
yeah.
It's so awful. Like they're not going to do it unless we put our full weight behind the ones who says they can do something. And these
Mm,
corporations, they all bow down to Donald Trump. And hopefully they also feel the impact of his bad policies, both domestically and internationally, and
mm,
they put pressure on him to change things because the only thing that they're going to do, the only time they're going to act, is when it starts affecting their bottom line.
that's right.
Right? They
That's
don't
right,
care
man.
about diversity, equity, inclusion,
All they
affirmative
care
action.
about is
We
their
saw
money.
the money. We saw how quickly they got rid of all that stuff. And when he said, "Get rid of it, and I'll be a cover for you," so I think we for these midterms we got to flip the house because at least you can stop some of this stuff and you can get some momentum. You could get a Democrat in, and I want a black Democrat to be the nominee.
Yeah,
I don't care if it's a man or a woman. I don't care if they're 40 or 50. Just get them in office, right?
that's right.
Because like you are like your parents, except for Obama and Kamala, all we've ever voted for is white people. I want white
Man,
people. I want white people to have 200 years of only having to vote for black people.
I got fatigue, Myron. And they talk about black fatigue. I got fatigue with that, man. Because
Too
Myron, I
much.
think like my age group pocket, of people that was born in like mid late 90s, early 90s, right? President Obama, he was elected, I think, when I was in the sixth grade, 2008.
Sixth grade.
When I was graduating from high school at 18, President Obama was still president. So throughout my
Ah, man.
young adolescent life, all I knew besides George Bush was President
Right.
Obama. where
Ah,
somebody was
that's nice.
smooth, was cool. And then I'm growing up, and it was just something about that time, I think, that doesn't get talked about enough, where you see Kobe Bryant on TV every night. You see
Right,
LeBron,
right,
Steph Curry, like you just see young black fly people. President Obama's black. And you see all
right,
of this. And then it's like 2016 happens and all of that
right.
changes.
And the
And
thing with I
yeah,
try to tell my daughter about that when Obama, those 8 years Obama was president, you can go a few days not even thinking about it. He was just
it was just
president.
on autopilot.
It's just autopilot. Every now and then you pop up on the news, or he'll pop up at an All-Star game, and you just
Yeah,
like, okay, okay, he got it. Like he
he
got it.
got it. That's the best way
I'm
to
not right. I'm not worried about it.
put
And
it.
sometimes, oh, he wear a tan suit. White people mad. You just nothing.
Mm,
He out there shooting buckets. You left-handed three-point shots. It's like, okay, it's good. But you're right. 2016 happened, and we have been in a slow spiral ever since then. And now they're doing what Steve Bannon said way back in 2015, flooding the zone.
that's
They are
right.
sending stuff at us where if you are online, right? If you are online, you see every couple of hours there's something new
It's
popping up.
draining. It's draining.
It wears you out. And now we got a whole war, so that means there's going to be something every 10 minutes going on with this war, right? And you got these Epstein files, they're trickling out this information. It's just one thing after another. And that doesn't even count for they don't even report on mass shootings anymore, hardly.
That's right.
And they still
That's right.
happen. And
Mm.
you got young black men being hung, lynched in a few places.
Myron, 20 minutes from where I live in Midtown Atlanta, a brother that went to the same school as me, Georgia State University, he was lynched 20 minutes north of me.
We don't hang ourselves. We don't hang ourselves. And that stuff, unless you're connected, like many of us
Yeah.
are, we'll see it online, we'll talk about it, on TikTok, but it doesn't go beyond that. You
No.
know, my family group chat, I go, sometimes I'll just see how much information they're getting. I'll say, did you guys hear about this? I
Nope.
got some uncles, my brother, some cousins. Nope, never. Just stuff that we see on TikTok and Instagram all day, every day. They don't see it.
Mm.
Don't see it.
Man, Myron, as a Raiders fan, shout out to the Raiders. I know you love the Raiders, man. I'm
we
a
go we go
Falcons
get
fan.
Mendoza. We go get Mendoza number one draft choice.
Come on now. Hey, y'all gonna be good. But Myron, I find it so odd now, man. I think about like ancient Rome, right? Where we're talking about Max Crosby being traded, Mendoza being drafted to the Raiders, but then we have a whole war going on. How do we
Isn't that
balance
something?
sometimes? We could be sports fans, but like, how do we balance that? Because sometimes I find it very eerie because I'm like, damn, like we could be talking about the NFL draft, about our teams. I'm a Falcons fan, so I'm who we gonna draft, da 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 da. But then sometimes like
Right.
I have to pause and be like, yo, it's a whole war going on. The
You
economy's bad.
know,
Yeah.
on my podcast, it's called Voice Memos with Jenny Myra, and my partner,
Hmm.
she's a longtime friend of mine, and she asked that same question. She said, and she's a white lady, right? She's from
Wow.
Wisconsin, been in California 20 years or something like that. And she says, like a lot of white people, I don't know how you could take this. Right. Then now that I'm more aware, I don't know how you could take this. And I've said this to my daughter as well, that we have to take time out for our mental health, for our
Yeah.
spiritual health, for our
Yeah.
personal health. Like, and whether that is enjoying sports, whether
Yeah.
that is reading a book, I'm a writer, I write books,
Yes, sir.
or going to a concert. Like my wife had this
Mhm.
Cardi B
Cardi
concert
B.
On
Yeah.
a Wednesday night. um, I think we have to do that, and it doesn't mean that we are less interested or less vested in what's happening, but we can help change things if we have the energy to be our best selves. And the way we can be our best selves is we have to take a break. It's just like a sports team. The offense comes in, the defense
You're
gets a
right.
rest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We go back and forth like that, and I think that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay. We take a mental health break and shut down. What
Mm.
I do, I'm a writer, so I write, but also because I'm retired, I'll just go to a movie. I'll sit in the theater, I'll watch a
Yeah.
movie, I'll disconnect because
I feel
like
you.
like you look, man, I have YouTube,
Mm.
Spotify, TikTok, Instagram,
It's a lot.
Face,
Yeah.
all that. And
Yeah.
if I look on that, 10 minutes later, I'm mad, right? And so I don't say disconnect all the time, but we have to take care of our mental health because it's important to us because we need to be strong for the fight.
Mm.
And the fight is
That's right.
always there.
Mm. recalibrate, man. You're right,
You got to
Myron.
recalibrate. You
And
got to recalibrate. And you know what?
earlier,
I want to
man.
make I want to
Yeah,
make another point about that. I
please.
think that is one reason that the ice skater Alyssa Liu blew up like she did. Right?
Mm,
She's from Oakland. She won the gold medal in the Olympics, and she skated. She said, "Look, I'm not skating to win medals. I'm skating because this is my art, and I want to share my
mm.
art, so I don't get nervous." And she won that gold. It was a beautiful skate, and I think a lot of
Wow.
people were feeling like you, so overwhelmed with all the badness that that young lady skated with such joy, and she was smiling the whole time. She went from 600,000 to like 6 million followers or something like that,
Whew.
200,000 to 6 million followers. And she's all over social media and all the talk shows because she just said, look, I'm going to exude joy and happiness in
That's
this
right.
moment. And I think many people needed that. Like we
Mm,
gravitated to that. And I think
mm.
that's one of the reasons. I think it happened with USA Hockey, but those men
Yeah.
blew it.
That's
They went and had cold McDonald's with that
come
man in the
on.
White House. People just said, that's why I don't like hockey.
That's right. That's right. And Myron, to your point, choose happiness. And I think our people do a beautiful job of that, always have. When I think about on the
Yes.
plantation, they're still humming and singing, right? I think about sinners where they were picking cotton all day and they still made time to go out that day. Like
They still
nobody
make
really
time.
like focuses on that. Like
Right.
they're doing back breaking work out in the hot summer sun, and they're still going out to the juke joint at nighttime just to have a good
It's the
time.
type of resilience that in my experience we don't see white Americans have.
Hello.
Right. We don't. Like
Yeah.
I saw this guy just like this black guy on TikTok, and he's pretending like he's writing a letter on his laptop, and his
Mm.
voiceover is, Dear Iran, we don't have no issues with y'all. I just
I don't want any smoke with y'all, man.
man,
Nothing.
you know, our people will find humor, right,
Mm.
in the worst of times. That type of resilience, and you know what? That's a strength.
Yes,
That's
sir.
the strength. And like you said, whether we were in the fields picking cotton, then later on that night, we could be at the juke joint having fun. That
Mm.
we can go from literally trying to survive hell, and then 10 minutes later, we are dancing and partying with each other. Right.
My goodness.
I don't think any other people, at least not in this country, and I don't know about the world, and I know not white Americans, they can't do that. They can't
Mm.
do that.
It causes a whole lot of jealousy too, Myron.
It
It
causes a
does.
lot of jealousy.
Yes.
Our joy sustains us, but it is received by the majority as a weapon against them.
Yes, sir. Man, Myron, this was beautiful. Only got a few more questions for you, brother. I
Yeah,
appreciate
yes,
your
sir.
time. President Obama, to your point, we were just talking about him earlier. Seeing him at the NBA All-Star game and seeing all the players were excited to still be around him. And I'm like, President Obama has been president for 8 years and he still has that effect. Michelle
It's
Obama,
amazing.
the same thing. So it made me think the Democratic Party really has fumbled. How can they try to recreate what they had with President Obama? Because I have yet to see them bring out somebody that's charismatic, that's smooth, connective. And to your point, they have to be black. So it's like, what can they do to bring somebody out? Westmore, of course, a potential candidate for that. Kamala Harris, we saw, but do you think that they need to bring out somebody fresh and new? What do you think that their strategy needs to be?
I wish the party would recognize the importance of that question.
Mm,
Um, that President Obama is one of the most popular
yeah.
people in the world, right?
Still.
In the world, right? And some people have issues, or say he was using drones and all that.
Mhm.
And there was a reason he won the Nobel Peace Prize so early in his career because he was seen as a unifying figure. And
Mm.
as he worked through establishing trade agreements, he opened up Cuba, right? People remember
Myron,
that?
I studied abroad in Cuba because of President Obama in
Remember
2018.
that? He
Yeah,
said,
I
well,
studied
get rid
abroad
of
there
all that.
because of him.
Those days are over. Open it up. We could do a trade.
Yeah.
And American businesses rush there. Yeah, my family, a bunch of my family members visited there.
Wow.
And he opened up Iran. He got them back
Yeah.
on the world stage and other nations, right? And I think the party, too many white people in the party, in the donor base. Like my grandfather was a pastor of a church when he was alive. He said, I'm gonna tell you
Mm.
something. There are many white people in America that don't want to follow a black man, right? And don't want to follow a black woman. He said man because he was from that generation, but
Yeah.
black women as well. And the party refuses to acknowledge that you can find a unifying figure like a President Obama. And whether it's Kamala, Wes Moore, or another 100 out there, right? They don't want that because too many white Americans, they want their savior to be white.
Just like
They
their
don't,
Jesus, huh, Myron?
there's like their Jesus. They don't want them to be black. They don't want to be black. And you know what? I'll say to my brown brothers and sisters, they don't want to be brown either.
Mm,
They don't want to be brown either. So, and I think that is to the country's detriment. That is.
mm, man, my goodness, Myron. Very last question for you, brother. What does our future
So,
look like? What do you think? Because I get scared, man. I don't have any kids yet, but it's like one day, when I do, like a few years from now, I get worried because I'm like, what is your world going to look like? So, what do you think our future looks like, Myron?
uh, I lean towards being optimistic,
Yeah.
but I hedge that optimism with time. That I think that we have worse to come. As
Mm,
long as Donald Trump is alive and capable, we have worse to come. I do think over a longer period of time, and I'm not talking 50 years, I'm talking 5 years, 10 years. I do
yeah.
think it gets better. And I
Yeah.
have to be optimistic like that because I'm looking at my daughter's only 21. I'm 61. I have 40
Man.
years on her. And like you're saying, I want my daughter to have a better world, right? And a better country, and I want her to have the ability to, if she has to, do you leave this country? Do you go somewhere else? Or do you stay invested in this country? I want her to stay invested in this country where I am, where her grandparents
Yeah.
or great grandparents worked to build this country. And so optimistically, I think we're better longer term, but I'm thinking 5 or 10 years. But realistically, I think the next 2 years are going to be worse. And I think we
Yeah.
just have to get through these couple of years and then it gets better after that. But I think it's going to be a bad couple of years. But optimistically, if we, like they say in church, you just hold on, let's get through this
That's right.
night because
A little
we
while
like to say
longer.
just a little while longer. That's what I say.
Yeah.
We have to stay safe. We have to stay smart. We have to protect our own. We got to know where we are, and I think we have to realize that we always say this. We are our best allies. We're our best hype people, and we have to do it for ourselves and for our family and our communities because nobody else is going to do it for us.
Hey, we all we got. We all we need, Myron. So,
Yes,
man,
sir.
I appreciate you so much, Myron. I'm on the way out, brother, because man, I'm so proud, bro. I'm a fan. So, where can everybody follow you? Your podcast now, your TikTok, Instagram, books, all of that good stuff.
So follow me. My podcast is Voice Memos with Jen and Myron. We're on all the
Mhm.
apps, and I do most of my posting on TikTok and Instagram, and it's author
Yeah.
Myron J. Clifton. And so you'll
Hmm.
see me there. Hit me up, say hi. I try to get in my comments because I appreciate followers, and I try to say
Yeah.
something to them as much as I can. But yeah, hit me up there. My books are at Bookshop or Amazon. I know some people don't like Amazon, but
Hmm.
Amazon is good for people like me, and I know they're
Yeah.
awful. However, the whole world is awful. Get my books on Amazon or
That's right.
Barnes and Noble online as
Mm.
well.
Yes, sir. Myron, I appreciate you so much, brother. You be safe out here. This episode should be up sometime tonight, so I'm gonna send it to you.
Awesome.
But thank you,
Hit
though,
me up
brother.
anytime. I love your
I
show. And
got
you
you.
know what? Let me tell
Thank you.
you, I'm very proud of what you're doing. I
Thank
love
you,
your
Myron.
platform. I check you
Thank you.
out, and we need more like you. So keep it going.
I will do, brother. Listen, I don't take that lightly. You be safe and keep up all the great
All
work.
right,
And we love you, man.
you
Peace.
got it. Peace.